Good evening. Welcome to the Khmer Post USA TV show. My name is Soben Pin. I am the co-founder and publisher of Khmer Post USA biweekly newspaper based in New England region. Tonight's episode, I have the pleasure to bring you an acclaimed author and screenwriter of Loung Ung, a book which called First They Killed My Father, A Daughter Cambodia Remember. The book is one of the national best-selling book, which has turned into a Netflix movie that directed by Angelina Jolie in 2018. We are here at Boston University Elie Wiesel Center for Jewish Study. She will be speaking later on tonight. We have an exclusive interview. We'll be speaking with her shortly. That's really incredible. That's, and how long did it take you to finish writing this book?
Probably a year and a half, because I was working full-time, and so I wrote in my free time. I wrote at night, I wrote in evenings, I wrote on the weekends, and I remember, because I'm not a trained writer, I like books, I read a lot. I love to read, I love books. And I was working in Washington, D.C. as an activist to end the use of landmines in the world and in Cambodia. And I didn't know I could write, but I knew I wanted to tell the story of love, my love story, to my father, to my mother, to Cambodia, to my siblings. And I remember just writing every day, going in my office and working. And then when I finished it a year and a half later, I walked out of my office, and it was an evening, and it was beautiful. People were outside having dinner, having drinks, and I really thought to myself, wow, this is what an evening looks like. I hadn't seen one in so long. I was like, wow, this is what an evening looks like. Because I went from working to writing, working to writing, and yeah, so I was really happy to have my evenings back.
Yes, I think our audience curious how you have been, since you published this book. This was published 2001. Yes. So now we're looking at almost 20 years. How your life has been after publishing this book?
My life I don't think it's changed. I think my family knows, they know me, I am who I am. I might have gotten a little louder because I've had more opportunities to speak. But I do my work because I believe in it, and I don't know if anything's changed for me. Maybe it's changed for what people think of me, but I still am just really happy being who I am. I still love Khmer food. I still love my family. I still love going to Sok Khmer. I've been back to Sok Khmer over 40 times now. I know, it's awesome. I started going back to Sok Khmer in 1995. I made my first trip in 1995. I think I made last year my 40th trip.
Oh my God.
Yes, and so that, perhaps that has changed, the book has changed that, because it has given me so many more opportunities to return.
Yeah. So I was reading this book, and I also watched the film screening yesterday, and I just, for really trying to sink in your world, how it was like growing up as a child in Khmer Rouge camp, and watch the film. It's really hard to take in, but I think some of the things that I really gravitated and understood was this witness of violence and trauma and death and pain and loss, pain and hunger. You've gone through all that. I mean, it just an experience that no human should ever experience. And my heart just cry out to you that I don't know, how were you able to have the courage to move forward and become bright and shine and share your story, how you are today? Like, tell me how this journey has been. Were you able to come to terms with your experience, what you experience, and moving forward, how to live and enjoy life in a graceful way. Like how, tell me all this. Just we want to know, and I want to know.
I am very fortunate. I'm very fortunate. I came to America when I was 10. I arrived to Vermont. There was not many Asians there. I think my brother, my sister-in-law, myself, and another Cambodian family of 7 were the first 2 Cambodian families in Vermont. So there wasn't a lot of support, but I was very lucky because Vermont is 2 hours and 45 minutes away from Lowell. And so we travel a lot to Lowell, where I was supported and grew up with a group of Cambodian families and friends and communities, and eating Khmer food and enjoying Khmer music and Khmer culture. And I think that was part of what allowed me to not only come to terms and also heal, but also to heal in a way where I could still embrace Cambodia. That was so important, having a community like Lowell to be embraced on, because otherwise, if I was only myself trying to heal my trauma, and I didn't have positive role models, and I didn't have positive experience of Cambodia and Cambodian culture and Cambodian music, I might have grown up in a different way. So I'm very grateful to Lowell. I'm very grateful that I, in my journey of trying to learn to write, to learn English, was also able to go to a community of my country and celebrate New Year's, and go to the water festivals, and go to weddings, because we do weddings well. We do 3 day, back in the 80s and 90s, we were doing 3-day weddings. And I think
3 days weddings,
yeah, no, it is so funny. And that when I got married, my husband there was a place, because back then there wasn't. But when I got married, there were places where you could actually rent my outfits to wear, which I did. And that was very special. And so for me, I kind of, having a Cambodian community nearby meant a lot. It was also a support for my family members. It was also a support for my brother and sister-in-law, and we enjoy going back and being part of the community. I was also very blessed in that I was able to come and go to school and make friends and learn to keep good people in my life. And that's very important, that we come from a culture also that's very artistic. Writing is storytelling, it's also art. My father was a great storyteller. People in the Khmer communities are wonderful storytellers, and I'm sure you notice, pretty much every single Khmer know how to sing, with the exception of me. And pretty much we sing and we all dance. And we're great storytellers. I haven't gone back to Cambodia many times. I love that. People sitting around just telling stories. And I think that it's really a big part of my healing as well, is to grow up, to deal with my trauma, and to have that kind of good role models to learn from.
That is amazing, that for a little town like Lowell to have your deep love and remember our communities. Like, I think, I'm sure our people will be very happy to hear this.
Well, we have great restaurants here, and and Khmer food. Oh my goodness! I mean, it's being able to, as simple as it was a big part. Food is a big part of healing. Food is today still a huge part of my healing. And when I first came to America, growing up in Vermont, I remember going to the A&P store to buy rice with my family. And the rice in the American store came in little bags that were 3 pounds. We go to Lowell to buy the bags that were 75 pounds. You know what I'm talking about. Yes. And that was very healing, because we could not get enough rice off of the shelves from the American market. And so rice is a big part of my healing, being able to eat rice and being able to have, tak thai, being able to, and we, being in Vermont, we didn't have it, so we went to the community closest to us to get it.
So now, spring forward, your book has turned into one of the most well-made documentary film by Netflix, for Netflix by Angelina Jolie. I was really worried before seeing it or before reading it. I knew all along, and I just couldn't have enough the courage to face it. As I have done it, I was just feeling like nobody can understand what happened in Cambodia without reading your book. People who never been there need to read to understand, to know what it was like. And then would see the film, would see some part of the story move a little bit, but mostly reflected the book. So I wanted, kind of curious to know you as a true living character in that story. Do you feel that the film reflected you well?
Yes, yes. Angelina and I have been friends for close to 20 years. She was in Cambodia, Angelina was in Cambodia in 1999 filming Tomb Raiders. Right. And then she read my book when it came out in 2000, and then she picked up the phone and called me up. And we have been friends ever since. And we see each other. And so I knew going into it that I was not just turning my book into a film. I knew going into it that I was working with somebody who really loves Cambodia, who loves Cambodia culture, who loves Cambodian music and food and people, and who wanted to tell the story of Cambodia through the lens of love and family and resiliency and poetry. So I was very, very happy about that, and also that she knew the book so well, and she knew me so well, and that she knew what was important to me, and it was important to her as well. It was important to me to honor my family, to honor my father, to honor my mother, and the spirits of my sisters, and the spirits of the 2 million Cambodians who died. This is the same reason Angie wanted to make the movie. She also wanted to honor Cambodia. She also wanted to remember Cambodia and to share Cambodia with the world, the beauty and the darkness of Cambodia with the world. So I believe, I believe we got it. I believe we did it. I'm very happy. And we were also so happy to work with all Cambodian cast. It's really, that's never been done for a movie this size, this epic, to work with close to 20,000 Khmer extras, to work with all Cambodian cast and many Cambodian crew and Cambodian artists. All the Cambodians on the film had a stamp, had all the Cambodians on the film put their DNA on the film. From the artist, to the hair person, to the costume designer, to the set builder, to the musicians, to the actors, to the people who were working in the rice fields. Every single Cambodian on the film set put their DNA on the film, which was really wonderful. It was so collaborative. And Cambodians are such great artists and so talented and so strong that these kids who've never been trained could do such a spectacular job of conveying the story onto the film.
I did see the character portray your character and your sisters very well, especially Chu and Kim and May. And I know Khoi, that's another one that didn't really appear very often, because he got sent away to separate camps. And the story of family love and survival in your book, it just touched readers to the core. How do you think that with your message in this book, in contrasting to Pol Pot, what he thinks of his love for the country when he committed these crimes?
The great contrast. Pol Pot led with fear. Pol Pot wanted to create a Cambodia that was brought back to year zero. Pol Pot wanted to create a nation where people didn't have a voice, people didn't have power, where people weren't given control of their own lives. They forbade even personal and familial relationships. To fall in love during the Khmer Rouge would have been a crime against the state. How do you make love illegal? How do you make love a crime? That's what I wanted to do with my book. Pol Pot made love a crime. I want to make love a source of inspiration. I want to make love, I want love in my book to be of real and family and for history and for each other, and that it should no way be anything you're ashamed of.
And I think you are such a great writer.
Thank you.
I have like certain passage I was reading, and I just can't help but to write them down. That the way you express it, it's just a miracle. Example like this one, just random notes that I just took. Labor camp. This is page 73. Struggle to receive love from my brother when all around me is hate. So many other lines that I was just reading, I get chill to my spine, up to my brain. And sometimes I feel headache, sometimes I feel my heart just throb. How did you find the strength to put all these words out?
Before I sat down to write the book, I returned to Cambodia on 7 trips. And I did a lot of research. I read a lot of books. I watched a lot of documentaries. I went back to a lot of the places my family went to in Cambodia during the war, to walk on the land, to try to remember with my body, with my spirit, and not just with my memory. I wanted my body to remember. And so I went back to Cambodia, and I just kept going back. And then I interviewed so many people. I talked to my grandmother, and I remember it was very painful as for me, as you can imagine. I can make myself remember things and write it down, but to watch and ask questions and to have them react the way they reacted. And I remember watching my grandmother answering my questions and telling her story and of her daughter who died, my mother. And as she was talking, tears run down her face, but she didn't wipe her eyes. She just let her tears drip. And then her hand, she took her right hand, and the whole time she was talking, she was rubbing her heart this way. She was just rubbing her heart over her chest, and just the whole time she was talking, her hand was doing this motion the whole time. And when I was writing, I wanted to honor that. I talked to my mother's best friend, I talked to my brother, I had my brothers and sister wrote me what they could remember. And I talked to my neighbors, I talked to so many people, and they all had such strong reactions to me asking questions that when I sat down to write, I was very aware that I had to honor not just what they lived through, but what they still were living through to tell me their story afterward. And I could not get that wrong. And it really was from a place of love. Every time it was difficult for me, I think it was not just me. My story isn't unique. Cambodia in 1975 was populated by 7 million people. A quarter of the population died. 5 million Cambodians survived. So we all went through it. It's a collective trauma that we all suffered from and that we are all trying to heal from. And so if I was going to write the story, I had to be very honoring of these stories and all these stories.
I think every word, every page, you did all those. I have seen now that makes sense that you talk to these people and they're rubbing, because I saw some of those reflected on some of the story in here, and it's just really wonderful and so great that you continue to involve with the landmines. And do you think that part of, as a childhood soldier, do you think that that's why it is drawn to you, because that was, you knew how it was like, you knew that this is part that really done to Cambodia at that point of time, and you were there, you knew, you have had the experience, you think that's what kind of drawn you to be involved in the campaign for the landmine? Was that something reasonable?
When we left Cambodia in 1980, there were two ways out of Cambodia. You either walk the land, of which we knew were tainted with landmines, to go to Thailand where there were refugee camps. Or you take the somewhat safer route, which was to get and buy seats on a boat to go from Cambodia to Vietnam, Vietnam to Thailand. That was a little that was a little safer. Cambodian walking, to walk on the land to go to Thailand was more dangerous because of landmines and the soldiers. Because of that, my family were again separated. In the war, there were 9 of us. The Khmer killed 4 of my immediate family members, both my parents and 2 sisters, and there were 5 left. And after the war, in search of a better life, and we decided to leave. We chose the route that was safer, but in order to do that, we left 3 more siblings behind. And my brothers and sisters still live in Cambodia to this day. And so our family wanted to be together, but again, it was not safe, and so we separated. It really is something that I think a lot about, and I've gone back to Cambodia many times, and to walk on these beautiful land. Cambodia is so beautiful. Cambodia is so green. I like to say I've yet find the green crayon in a box of 164 crayons, the color in its scenery. And Cambodia's land is also really beautiful, red earth, and so when you get the green before, everything just pops. When I look at Cambodia, and I think of when I look at computer images, and you know, when the pictures download, the pixelates sort of comes in slowly, and I always feel missing stuff. I always feel like I'm not completely full. But when I look at Cambodia, it feels like my eyes are full. My eye just feels full. And yet to know that there are millions of landmines still in the ground, and it's still hurting people and harming people, and that after the Khmer Rouge stopped killing parents and making children orphans and taking children away from their parents, an average of 500 people every single month after the war were being maimed, killed, and injured by landmines. And how ridiculous was that? To fight that hard to survive a war and a genocide, and then during peacetime to take a wrong step, or to take a step off the beaten track, and then have that be the end of it after you've just survived this horrible genocide. And now, you fight so hard to survive the war, but because of landmines, you are having a hard time surviving the peace. And so it stirred me into taking action. And I now, many decades later, 30 years later of being involved in various different groups and this kind of work, I realized that peace isn't something we wait for. It's not something we wish for. It's not something we think it's going to be granted to us by a president or a fairy godmother or a god or goddesses. Peace is an act. It's an action, many, many, many actions. And if we want it for our world or for our community, in our life, at our school, in Loung, we have got to act. Peace is an action, not a wish.
For the sake of time, this has been really wonderful. I think in coming to the end of the interview, I think we'd like to know, I know you're such a great writer and you've been writing other books. Tell us about it.
Yeah. Well, I am writing a story about, I'm writing a story that is inspired by the Khmer mythology of Ap, the Khmer Ap mythology.
Khmer Ap mythology?
Yeah. Yes, it's inspired by that, but my story it's a fiction, and it takes place in Khmer, but it takes place in 1181, back in Angkor Wat era.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
And I know you publish other books too, so tell us.
Have.
Not just,
Yes.
This is not just one book that you published.
Yes. I published First They Killed My Father. To me, is a story about what it takes to survive the war. And then in a couple years later, I published Lucky Child, which is a story for me of what it takes to survive the peace long after everybody tells you the war is over. And yet the war still exists in your body, in your dreams, in your nightmares, in the faces of your family members who are there and not there. And so what I wanted to do with Lucky Child was to tell the story of what it takes to survive the peace, what it takes to retell yourself and to grow and to thrive. And then I later published Lulu in the Sky, which is a story about what it takes to go from surviving to thriving, from hurt to health, from being fear of love to falling in love. And so I published, and also what it takes to be fearful and then to return to Cambodia. So Lulu in the Sky, much of the book takes place on my many trips to Cambodia.
Well, thank you so much for your time and for this interview. It's really a special privilege and honor for me to sit one-on-one and talking with you and hearing your journey.
You're fabulous. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. Yeah. Thank you.